27-year-old Tamika Taylor was known to be a successful woman living in a home that she bought all on her own. It's been said in interviews by friends and family that she would go up to just about anyone and strike up a conversation. On December 4th of 2002, Tamika had plans to go to a Christmas party in a red dress that she had told her friend about because she was so excited about that dress. What she didn't know was that she would never make it to that party. Her sister would find her 2 days later in a horrific scene. DNA was taken from the crime scene, however, no match was ever found. Just 6 weeks later, there would be another murder that was eerily similar to Tamika's, and that was of 32-year-old Jennifer Clemmings. Jennifer was said to be successful by climbing to the top of marykay and even earning the infamous pink Cadillac. Marykay is a multi-level marketing company that was founded in 1963 by Marykay Ash, and they are known for selling cosmetics. Jennifer was known to give back to her community by donating, along with hiring people of this very community in need to help work on her home. On January 27th of 2003, Jennifer would be found murdered. Because both cases were very similar, this led some to believe their murders could have been linked somehow. The difference with Jennifer's murder is there was a chilling voicemail that she left for a friend recording the attack. Everything that investigators have has led to a dead end, and while they have evidence, they have no one to link it to. Unfortunately, both cases have gone cold. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hi, my name is Monica. I like to post anti-MLM, life, and some true crime content here on this channel. So if any of that interests you, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I would love for you to stick around. In today's video, I am bringing you another one of my anti-MLM true crime hybrid videos. So of course, just as a disclaimer, this video is based on the research that I've done. I will leave all of my sources in the description box below. This is all information that is available to the public. Because of the nature of the crime, I do have to issue another disclaimer. Warning, the following presentation is intended for mature audiences. It contains graphic descriptions of crime scenes, adult dialogue, and sexual assault. Viewer discretion is advised. Now, the video is going to be about 2 cases, and the reason why is because some people have been theorizing that the 2 of these cases are maybe possibly linked to one another. Both of these cases have gone cold, unfortunately. So I wanted to make this video not just because the one victim was a marykay rep, but I wanted to make this a video because when I was researching this, there's really not that much information out there about these 2 cases. It's just some articles here and there. And I just hope that maybe, just maybe, someone will come across this video and be able to help with the investigation because, like I said, they both went cold. I will leave in the description box as well the phone number that you can call if you have any information regarding these 2 cases. So first we're going to start off with Tamika Taylor, and then we'll go into Jennifer Clemmings. So Tamika Taylor was a 27-year-old woman, and she was described by many friends and family in a lot of interviews. I saw an interview, and the way that the person was talking about her was just that she was this all-around great person, this confident woman who built her, I guess you can kind of in a sense say, built her empire almost. And she really truly was successful. She did live in DeKalb County, Georgia. I'm not sure if I'm saying that properly. I tried to look up how to say it, so I'm sorry to anyone. I know some people have gotten offended in the past on how I've butchered the names, but that is not my strong suit, so I do greatly apologize if I didn't say it properly. But anyway, Tamika was known to be able to just walk up to anybody and just spark up a conversation, which that, in my opinion, I think is a skill because that is not something I can do. I mean, I could talk on camera to you guys, and I can talk if it's something that I know, I guess, what I'm talking about, the subject that I'm talking about. But if I'm at, let's say, a get-together or even a networking event, because that's what she was very used to going to because of the nature of her job, which we will get to in a second. But when I would go to these things, I had to force myself to be able to go out there and talk to people. Whereas it seemed like Tamika it was just in her blood. It was just part of her personality to be able to just talk to anybody. As I said before, 27-year-old Tamika was a very successful businesswoman. She was a loan officer that was working for a major financial firm. Because of this, she was able to buy her home all by herself in a really great neighborhood. With her line of work, it was very common for her to go to events, specifically networking events. And on Thursday, December 4th of 2002, she was going to a Christmas party that was kind of like a networking event as well. And she called her friend Rochelle Howard that night around 5 p.m. Tamika was telling her how excited she was because she had this really beautiful red dress that she was just really excited to wear. Unfortunately, Tamika would never make it to that event. Tamika's sister hadn't heard from her in 2 days, so she was a little worried, and she decided that she was going to go to her house and check on her and make sure that she's okay. And this was on December 6th of 2002. When her sister walked into Tamika's home, she called out to Tamika and she didn't hear a response, so she just started walking around the house to see if maybe she was sleeping somewhere or whatever the case was. And it wasn't until she went upstairs that it had dawned on her what happened to Tamika. She found Tamika in her bedroom, naked, lying in a pool of blood. Police had arrived on the scene and determined that Tamika was stabbed 57 times by her own knives that were in her kitchen. Once they questioned her sister and they knew that the last time that she talked to her was 2 days ago, that's when investigators really needed to look at what happened within the last 2 days. Where was she? Where was she going? Who was possibly meeting with her? The typical questions that investigators have. Investigators believe that shortly after Tamika had talked to her friend Rochelle, remember the friend I told you about that she was telling her the red Christmas dress that she was so excited to wear? They believe that after that phone call, she either opened the door to someone that she knew or someone was already in her home waiting for her. Lieutenant Bryan said that there was no evidence of forced entry, so he believed that maybe Tamika had just gotten home and she was just going through her normal routine. Just how some of us have our normal routine. We put, for if you're like me and you have a bag or a purse or something, you put your purse down, you put your keys down, I usually close the blinds, turn on the lights, that kind of a thing. So she was just going through her regular routine. And he thought that maybe she started to notice that certain things were out of order, that maybe there was something that was just wrong in the house and that Tamika noticed. The killer did make his way into her home and somehow forced Tamika to go upstairs into the bedroom. This is where her clothes were either taken off by the killer or taken off by Tamika. And unfortunately, this is when her killer would sexually assault her. And there was an article that I was reading, and the one line from the article said that she had been stabbed 1 time for every second in a minute. Some of the knife wounds that Tamika had were pierced all the way through her body. As I said before, the knives that were used were from Tamika's own kitchen. And because there were fingerprints and bloody footprints at the home, they thought that maybe they would be able to identify the killer because there's possible DNA here. And they were able to recover male DNA from Tamika's body. This is when Lieutenant Bryan and his team started to profile the killer based on the evidence that they had so far. And he said in an interview, quote, "The person was very angry. I think it was personal. I think the person was possibly rejected by Miss Taylor. Tamika was about 5'10", 5'11", so this person was very physically strong." Tamika's stepmother, Gwen, she did say that she felt as though Tamika knew her killer because she felt comfortable enough to open the door. If, let's say, that the killer rang the doorbell or knocked on the door. And so her stepmother thought that she probably knew this person and she was comfortable enough to maybe even allow the person into her home, even though it was a little bit later in the day. They started to think that maybe there's an ex-boyfriend. So of course, investigators, they look into Tamika's previous relationships, and there were at least 2 men who lived near her home, one of which was not happy with the breakup. I guess they ended on kind of bad terms, but neither of these people were a match to the DNA that they found on the scene. When they finally got the DNA back from Tamika's body, they could not compare it to anyone, so they couldn't find anybody who was a match to it, and of course this was a dead end. So they have the evidence, but they have nobody to link it to. Just 6 weeks later, and 6 miles away from Tamika's home, there would be an eerily similar murder that would happen. That was just a lot of things, we're gonna get into it, but a lot of things were very, very similar to Tamika's murder. This was the victim that was 32-year-old Jennifer Clemmings. Jennifer Clemmings, at just 32 years old, was said to be very, very successful. A lot of people around her said that she was just a go-getter, and she just, if she wanted something, she would get it. And just like Tamika, also lived in DeKalb County, Georgia, 6 miles away from each other. She had become a marykay consultant. If you're new here, I was a marykay consultant as well. However, I definitely didn't have the success that Jennifer did. Jennifer was one of the top earners. She was at the top 1%. She even earned her pink marykay Cadillac, the typical marykay Cadillac that we see all the time. And if you're new to my channel, I am an anti-MLM channel, so of course I am against the multi-level marketing structure. So this next portion of my video is not to diminish any of Jennifer's success, because of course I do have respect for people who have passed, and this isn't going to be a judgment of her character or anything like that. I am just talking about the company that she was working for. So please, anyone, don't think that I'm being terrible to Jennifer, because that is not what I'm trying to do here. But as I said, marykay is a multi-level marketing company that was founded by Mary Kay Ash in 1963. They sell cosmetics, and of course the car that some of these reps say are free are in fact not, because if the rep drops in rank, then they have to pay for that payment. And the thing is that it's not given to you from the company itself. You have to take these cars out in your own name, and it is a lease. MLMs are also commonly referred to as legal pyramid schemes. While pyramid schemes are in fact illegal, and we all know this, and multi-level marketing is not. Multi-level marketing is legal. However, when the emphasis in MLM companies is on recruitment, that is a red flag. This is a common narrative, but I always counter it with, well, murder is illegal, substances are illegal, but all of these things still happen. These MLM companies target mostly women, some men, but it's predominantly women, in their most vulnerable states, and MLM reps are taught to sometimes fake it till you make it. So if you see these luxury lifestyles, sometimes they are just faking it. Another thing that they're taught is no doesn't mean no, it just means not right now. The MLM structure is built where the people at the bottom have to be losing money in order for the top 1%ers to make money, whether the top 1%ers know that or not. But enough about marykay and MLMs, because I have a lot of videos that are dedicated to that topic. Let's get back to Jennifer's case. While I do not agree with the multi-level marketing industry and the business structure, I have to applaud Jennifer, because while they said that she was very successful, Jennifer did donate a lot of her money to the community. Along with that as well, she did live in a very nice neighborhood, but she was having a lot of work done on her house. So what she would do is she would get people from church or people in the community who are in need of a little extra cash, and she would hire them. Instead of hiring someone from the outside, she would hire these people to work on her home because she knew that they needed the money. It was even said in one article that she did go to Home Depot and ask people at Home Depot if they wanted to make a little extra money and help her work on her home. So I will applaud her that she was very, very willing to give back to her community and just help her community, because you don't see that a lot. Because a lot of MLM reps, I don't think I've really seen a lot of MLM reps giving back to the community without having or wanting something else in return. Because, I mean, of course, it's gotten a little more intense now with the rise of social media, because if you think about the time that Jennifer was in marykay, this was a long time ago. This is before social media was the beast that it is today. And I do think that she genuinely wanted to help her community, whereas a lot of times now, it's just a marketing tactic for a lot of these MLM reps. For example, Amanda MC here on YouTube, she's a nurse, and she made an entire video about these care packages for nurses that when everything first started to happen, that these reps were making these care packages for these nurses with a bunch of their MLM products and their business cards in it. So while I get that you're trying to market yourself, but this is not the time and place. Whereas in Jennifer's case, I do think it was genuine, and I do think that there wasn't an ulterior motive behind it. I think that's the best way to say it. Unfortunately for Jennifer, on January 27th of 2003, she would be found dead in her home in Lithonia, Georgia, after a very, very chilling voicemail that lasted approximately 30 seconds that was left for her friend. She had made a call to her friend during her attack, and this was around 8:30 p.m. At first, during this call, you hear Jennifer's voice, and then it sounds as if the phone dropped or something like that, and you can hear her trying to calm down the man that is in her presence, and this would end up being the person who attacked her. But you can hear her saying that she's going to give him his money because he was there to pick up some kind of money. So there was a theory that maybe it was one of the people that was working on her home that maybe she forgot to pay him and that he was there for his payment. So you hear her trying to reason with him. Then the man says something along the lines of, "Quit playing with me," and that he's about to sexually assault her. The voicemail ends shortly after you hear Jennifer saying, it's almost as if she was saying a prayer, and it's just her saying, "Jesus, Jesus." And it's so heartbreaking to hear, and I haven't decided if I want to put the voice recording in this video or not, because it was very heartbreaking for me to hear, so I don't know if other people are going to be able to listen to it. So I haven't decided yet, but of course, maybe editing Monica will think differently and add it in here. But as soon as her friend received this voicemail, she said in an interview that not even a half hour had passed because she immediately called the police, and that it couldn't even have been a half an hour from the voicemail and her hearing it and calling the police. But unfortunately, it was too late for Jennifer. When investigators arrived on the scene, the door was unlocked, and they had found Jennifer's nude body laying on her stomach in a puddle of her own blood in the bedroom. Jennifer had been stabbed over 20 to 30 times. And just like Tamika's murder, Jennifer had been stabbed with knives from her own kitchen. After this, investigators noticed that there were just way too many eerie similarities between Jennifer and Tamika's murders. Not only with the way that they were murdered, but also the two of them were both very successful women. They were kind of close in age. I would say that they were close in age. Along with that as well, they both lived in very good neighborhoods only 6 miles away from each other. Investigators started to believe that the men or the man, depending on if it was two separate men or the same man, who killed them had to have felt comfortable walking around a neighborhood like that, because it was a nicer neighborhood. So they needed to be able to blend in almost, or if they were seen by other neighbors, the other neighbors would have had to know them from, in Jennifer's case, working on her home, for example. Investigators did look into Jennifer's dating history to see if maybe there was a recent ex that was not happy about the breakup. However, it did turn up to be a dead end. They tried to find DNA from the scene, but they didn't really have that much evidence to go on besides the knives that were used to stab Jennifer and that voicemail. This is when investigators really truly focused heavily on that voicemail. Lieutenant Bryan said that the voice was very distinctive. It was a Southern male because some of the language that was used in it was very Southern. At one point in the voicemail, there's whispering in the background, so this is when people started to theorize, or investigators started to theorize, that maybe Jennifer was whispering the name of her killer. With that being said, they took this voicemail, they sent it to get analyzed. This included sending it to the FBI, along with sending it to a really, really intelligent student at Georgia Tech. However, again, it was another dead end because they said that they could not make out what name she was saying, if she was even saying any kind of name. Investigators even allowed friends and family to listen to it to see if maybe they could pick up on something because they know Jennifer, so maybe Jennifer was saying something, whether it be cryptic or whatever the case may be. And eventually they would have the public listen to this because at this point, nobody could identify the voice. No one could identify if there was a name in it. And police just needed everyone to help. So, of course, they turned to the public. With all of that being said, unfortunately, again, turned up to be a dead end. Investigators did believe that there was a motive and that the motive was financial. So it was about money because in the beginning of the voicemail, you hear the man saying, "I want my money," along with saying, "Don't play with me." This would lead them to think that this could be someone who worked on Jennifer's house. That's when they looked to find every single person that has ever worked on Jennifer's house, some of which, of course, they wouldn't be able to find because some people, they didn't have record of it, but everyone that they questioned, again, another dead end. As the time kept going on, Lieutenant Bryan did say in an interview that judging by the evidence that they do have that they're not releasing to the public, there's certain things that they're not releasing to the public because if they do find a suspect, they want to make sure that certain things were kept away. So if this person comes in and they question the person, if they slip up, then they can say, "Oh, well, we never released this to the public." So I do think that that's smart for them to do that, to not release some of this stuff for everyone to know about. But because of all of this, Lieutenant Bryan would go on to say that he doesn't believe that the two murders are connected at this point. It's just coincidence, which it could be just coincidence. It could also be the same person. But unfortunately, even with all of the evidence that they have nobody to link it to. Which brings me to someone named Paul Holes, and he is a cold case investigator. There is an episode on YouTube. I didn't feel like paying for it, but if you want to, you can, of Paul Holes dissecting this case and talking about this case. I only saw little snippets of it and kind of like the trailer of it, but I didn't watch the whole episode. And there are a lot of articles online as well, but Paul Holes wanted to get as much information as he possibly could about the killer. That's when he met a former prosecutor by the name of Lonnie Coombs and a forensic linguist, Dr. Betsy Berry. Dr. Berry analyzed the voicemail. Dr. Berry was not given any information about this case because they wanted her to go into analyzing this voicemail with no kind of bias or anything like that, which is understandable. That makes a lot of sense because she doesn't know the context, she doesn't know anything. She can just focus on the voicemail itself. And Dr. Berry came up with a theory that said this could have been a rape situation that ended in murder, and that the man could be a repeat offender. She went on to say, quote, It seems like this is a game to him, a game that he's going to win. He's scripted this. He's following a script. He's following the rules to his game. He wants her to follow the rules. And it leaves me with the impression that this was maybe not the first time that he has used this script. Paul Holes also said that the killer could have been a serial offender because at the crime scene, the knives, some of them somehow broke during the attack and they were stacked on top of, I believe it was Tamika's body, almost as if it was a signature behavior. So we see this a lot with a lot of serial killers. It's almost like they have their own watermark, if you will, if you want to call it that. And that's how people know that this is the same person because they're doing the same thing at every single crime scene. So there was a serial killer in Georgia that could be a potential suspect. Charles Lendell Carter. Some articles refer to him as Lendell Carter, so I'm assuming that his full name is Charles Lendell Carter, but he probably goes by the name Lendell. And he received his third life sentence for murder in 2011. Investigators can't confirm how many women or victims that he has killed altogether, but at one point he did plead guilty to 2 murders, one in Fulton County and one in Gwinnett County, along with even more victims, which included 38-year-old April Allen, who was an administrative assistant. Then there was Angela Thayer Green, who was a mother of 6, and 40-year-old Lisa Rosenthal. Now we enter in this woman named Sharon Hagan, who is a criminal profiler, and she believes that it's possible Tamika's murder was not a one-time event, and that this could be a serial offender or a serial killer, whatever you want to call them, because of some of the wounds that she had around her neck, along with the slashing of her face. And remember how I talked about Dr. Betsy Berry before? She said along with this that the person is possibly a repeat offender. So if you have so many, I would call them experts, if you have so many experts saying that this could possibly be, if not probably be, a repeat offender, then I would say that is a legitimate theory, because so many people are saying that it can't just be a one-time thing. So I do think that they have to look into someone who could be a repeat offender. I know that I've said that so many times in this video so far, so I do apologize. Paul Holes, the cold case investigator that I talked about earlier, did say at one point that the murders happened at a very carefully selected time, where people are usually home, and if you live on your own, most likely you're home alone. And this was a time of day because, of course, with Tamika, it was around 5 p.m. that she last talked to her friend. So either it happened after the phone call or a couple of hours later. Whereas with Jennifer, the voicemail went through at 8:30 p.m. So I do think that the time was carefully selected, as Paul says, and I do think that I do believe in that theory. In addition to this, Paul Holes also said that both of these women had been stabbed with knives from their own kitchen, which could possibly mean that the killer could not risk getting caught with a weapon on him. So maybe this person is on probation or parole. Eventually, Paul and his team checked for serial offenders in the area, and they only found one person by the name of Charles Lendell Carter. Of course, because of all of this, the last article that I found that was the most up-to-date that I could find stated that they're waiting for DNA results to confirm whether or not Carter is responsible for these murders. With all of that being said, I could not find anything else on this case. So if anyone knows anything more about this case, please leave it in the comment section below. Along with that, as I said in the beginning, that I will leave it in the description box below, but I did also want to pop it up on the screen real quick that if you know anything about the murders of Tamika Taylor or Jennifer Clemmings, the public is being asked to contact Crime Stoppers Atlanta, and the phone number is 1-404-577-TIPS, as in TIPS. And again, that phone number is 1-404-577-TIPS. Or you can also submit a tip anonymously to Crime Watch Daily. My feeling on this, I guess my final thoughts on this is, first and foremost, my deepest condolences go out to Tamika Taylor and Jennifer Clemmings' families, and I hope that the both of these women are resting in peace. I really, truly do. I hope that one day their cases can be solved. I'm not a fan of covering cold cases, but the reason why I wanted to cover this case is not just because she was a marykay rep, and as you guys know, I do like to do these MLM true crime kind of hybrid videos. I do like to cover these types of cases, but the fact that it was a cold case, the fact that these women, nobody knows what happened to them. And they were both, their murders are very similar. And I know that some people have rolled out that it's just coincidence. There's no way that these murders are connected or anything like that. But I disagree. I think that there are too many similarities for it to be a coincidence. Too many similarities. Because both women, they lived about what? How long do you drive for 6 miles? Like 10 minutes or something? They lived 10 minutes away from each other. Both lived in really good neighborhoods. Both of them were very successful. They were similar in age because one was 27, one was 32. I mean, I would consider that kind of similar in age because I'm 33, so I think I'm just trying to, keep myself younger. But anyway, the fact that they were stabbed with their own knives from their kitchen, they were left in their bedrooms in a pool of their own blood, there's just way too many similarities between the two. And it happened 6 weeks apart. You can't tell me that that's just a coincidence. I mean, maybe, of course, there is a possibility that it could be a coincidence, but I don't know. I really, truly, this case, I don't think it's a coincidence. I do think that the two of these cases are linked together, unless if the evidence that they're not releasing to the public, unless that evidence points to the direction that they're not linked at all, because we don't know what that evidence is. So unless if that evidence is a determining factor of these cases not being linked, then okay, I stand corrected. But as I'm looking at it with the information that I have right now, I think that they are connected. But again, I truly hope that the families can finally get closure and that somehow someone out there can help with this case. Because these women deserve justice, first of all. Second of all, they deserve to be found because they deserve to give their family closure and they deserve a final resting place, regardless of what that is, because I know some people, they want to be buried, some people want to be cremated. Whatever that resting place is, they deserve that. These women deserve that. And maybe one day we'll have better technology where they'll be able to take this voicemail that they have, and there's other technology out there that can analyze it a little bit better. I know that they've sent it to the FBI, and I'm sure that the FBI has a ton of really great technology, but I really hate covering cold cases, and I really hate reading cold cases because they're just so sad. These families, they don't have closure. That, to me, it's horrible. So Again, if anyone has any information, the phone number is 1-404-577-TIPS, as in like tipping your waitress or your waiter. And I'll leave it in the description box below. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you think that these cases are linked together, or do you think that they're not? I would love to hear from you guys. I would love to hear any theories that you guys have. And I guess that's all that I have for you guys today. If you have watched up to here, thank you so much for watching. And this is Monica reporting to you live from a highway. Bye.